Hello. You are watching an informative video to learn more about an English word. Perfect. P-E-R-F-E-C-T. Perfect. Definitions of perfect. Adjective. Having all the required or desirable elements, qualities, or characteristics, as good as it is possible to be. Perfect.
What's good, beautiful people? I am DW. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And I am joined with the awesome, graduating, oh snap, Liam.
What's up, everybody? My name is Liam. My pronouns are graduated, and done with school. And I'm happy to be with you guys today.
And Liam and I, we've been kicking it since elementary school, and you are listening to What's Perfect Really podcast.
On this podcast, we talk about moments in music and the impact those moments had on our lives, our friendship, and the whole world.
And our mission is to bring light to the perfect moments in music we think deserve a little more appreciation.
And on today, we are going to talk about an artist by the name of Big Pun and a song he has called Beware. And I'm going to make a case as to why I think this is a perfect moment in music for me. So let's get into it. Yeah.
Every time I'm like, yep, that's the thing. I wonder if episode 52, we're going to be like, all right, I'm not dancing to that no more. I don't think so. I think I'm still going to be excited about it.
Some shit just works forever. You never need to fuck with it.
True.
All right, so
true.
Big Pun, the song is Beware. 1998 is the year. Rosa Parks, Outkast. The Boy Is Mine, Brandy. You Make Me Wanna, Usher. Do you have like a favorite of those three 1998 songs?
I mean, that's hard because people were like, there was some really great music out there. No, I was looking also too. Other stuff, Busta was out there. Lauren, like you said, Outkast. There was some bangers, banging.
And this is that age where like music means everything to you. We're both like teenagers, and it's like music is like
it's like you're
religion.
You're listening to the album from front to back in your headphones on your disc with your Discman. That's what they called it.
Yeah, Discman back then. And you're like, This is my new identity. This album.
All day, all night. When you go to sleep, when you wake up, through the hallways.
Yeah.
Oh, Redman is out. Is Redman? Nah.
I bet Muddy Waters is coming out around that time. I don't know exact year, but somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, DMX in what's the squad with DMX?
Rough Riders.
Rough Riders. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Ooh. Is the Firm out? AZ and Nas and Foxy?
I think it is. I think this is that whole time period where their shit is just flying around like crazy.
Yeah, no, it's happening. There's some heavy hitters going on here, and Big Pun
is
one
out
of
too.
one of the front runners in this.
But did you have a favorite song? Rosa Parks, The Boy Is Mine, and You Make Me Wanna?
I'm gonna go with You Make Me Wanna.
Yeah, that's the correct choice.
That's the correct choice. Yeah. Okay. Like when Usher pulls down the pants, like does a little the Janet Jackson expired routine, pulls down the pants and is like, ooh, comes out the pants and has the little Nike song where everybody's like, those are the Nikes. Ah.
Yeah. That was a great song.
It was for sure.
All right,
Usher is forever a sex symbol in everybody's mind.
He kind of is. He's and he still looks like he's like this, not even that much older. Like right? What's going on?
Yeah, Benjamin Button for real.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What's the song about?
But what's the song about? Song is Beware. It's Big Pun's first album. It's the first song on his album. And this is back in the day when people would buy CDs. There's no streaming. You don't kind of like pick and choose what you want. Like you hear the song on the album. So where it is on the album matters in the context and how it relates to all the other songs. So this is the first one off. This is like the statement piece for the song. It's very dark. It's very cinematic. It's very like East Coast sounding. Mm-hmm. And it's basically Big Pun just like rapping his ass off. And he just kind of like like drops a gauntlet, you know, like of like, I'm a great rapper gauntlet, like bang, there it is. And then I'm from the street. And that's basically what the whole song is about.
All right, as we get into it.
Yeah.
Perfect moment since last week.
So the perfect moment ties to this song, actually. So when I was researching the song, we'll get into it, but this song is the first song, but it comes in after the intro to Big Pun's album. And the intro to Big Pun's album is a movie clip from this movie called Fresh, which is a 1994, like,
oh gosh, yes,
movie. Like, it's kind of quote unquote falls in this like hood genre. But to me, it's like, as far as like, particularly like you think of like hood genre movies, if you want to call them that, in like different regional areas of the United States. And to me, like New York City was always lacking like a really quality one. I know Juice is there, Above the Rim, but to me, this is my favorite of that type of genre. And it's like unbelievably compelling, and revisiting this album and that intro allowed me to kind of go back into that movie. And that movie, if you haven't seen it and you're a listener, please do yourself a favor, watch that movie. It is unfucking real how good that movie is. And I Googled it. And so apparently there's a new movie that came out in 2022 that's also called Fresh.
Oh, word.
And when you Google Fresh movie right now, the 1994 movie Fresh that I'm talking about doesn't exist in the search results on Google. You have to go like, you know, you click on like the next page and the next page. Yeah. So this movie has kind of wiped out the existence, as far as Google is concerned, of the 1994 movie Fresh. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that, like, I was immensely sad. Because I think there's like an age thing happening. And then the fact that this awesome movie is kind of just being shoved out of the ability to kind of stumble across for a lot of people.
Well, what makes a movie so awesome to you?
Again, like, I don't think I'm an authority on a topic like this. Like, what is it really like in the hood? I'm not the one to speak to that. But I do think any person observing like art and culture can sense some degree of credibility in what's happening, and credibility in storytelling. And a lot of like hood movies, when I watch them as an outsider, don't seem credible. Like, they seem over the top. They seem like a cliche of what a gang member is supposed to look like, or what a drug dealer is supposed to look like or act like. And this movie presented everyone as a very complex, intelligent person. And I felt like they did this good job of existing in this quote unquote hood environment, but presenting a very intelligent, compelling human story. And fucking awesome movie.
I mean, surprisingly, on I'm not surprised, because the movie Fresh is from what I remember, it has some dynamics to it. I'd have to watch it again, but I remember watching it mad long ago, but really getting caught up in the storyline. But on what is it, Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah,
it's at an 88%.
Certified fresh. No pun intended. No big pun intended.
You know, I know that's the bar, but a lot of critics are not. Most critics, and I think this have a bias because most critics are white men specifically. But even for it to have an 88 to go there, I think there's an audience rating too, so you can see the audience rating. Yeah, but I agree. Fresh is something that I remember when I was younger. When you said the movie Fresh, I was like, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was one of the movies in my catalog. You know.
Yep. Yeah, awesome movie. So that was my perfect moment of the week, being able to kind of like just go back to that movie and rethink about it. How about you? What was your perfect moment of the week?
I was driving down. So we live in a 5 college town, and there's a lot of crosswalks because students are, crossing and stuff like that. And I was driving down one of the roads, and I was behind a car that stopped at the crosswalk. And I was trying to figure out, I couldn't see anything. So I was trying to figure out, why did this car stop at the crosswalk when I can't see anything? And then I see this boss ass squirrel crossing the street. But this is the thing. The squirrel is not running. The squirrel is walking. Like it for me, just, because squirrels, they have 4 legs and they could run. But this squirrel he's on his 2 feet, nicely prancing. No, not walking like Ratatouille. Not like Ratatouille.
This is the apocalypse.
No, but on 4 legs, kind of just prancing across the street. Like, I hit the crosswalk button everybody stop. I'm going to take my time and walk across the street and y'all going to wait. That for me was the most perfect moment, because anytime something that represents nature is on concrete for me, it's like we came as humans and was like, we're going to take over everything, and then get mad when an animal crosses the street. And for me to see the squirrel be like, you're on my land.
Yeah.
You wait for me to cross the street. And then everybody pause and wait for the squirrel to walk across the street. Man, that was perfect. I was like, man, I want to be more like this squirrel. that was my perfect moment.
So like, to make this a weird, like, I just graduated from engineering school. There was this like engineering explanation talking
Liam
about like
graduated. Hold up.
Okay.
Let's have a moment for Liam's graduation. I don't know if you're going to go into this, but I'm going to go into it. Was it 10 years?
Yeah, more than that.
How many years?
I think I started, I was like 27. So like 12 years.
12 years of work and one class and two class and going to work and late nights and all this stuff. This is a huge accomplishment. Yo, man, as a person who's been viewing your life for so many years, I'm so happy for you. And I don't even want to be like, I'm proud of you, but I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I'm happy that you have this moment, because I don't care what anybody says, that opportunity to walk across the stage when you've done all that work, it's one of the most gratifying experiences ever. And so at least for me, I don't know what your experience is like, but I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, it will actually be my first time ever walking across the stage. In high school, I didn't have like a traditional high school experience, so I did not walk across the stage. And then any of my other kind of like academic achievements have never involved walking across the stage. So it'll be my first time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But quickly to just, we should not spend as much time on this topic, but in engineering school, they talk about like relative speeds and how that all is connected. And they use this example as a way to do it. So like, we're driving down the highway, right? And we hit a bug. The bug hits our windshield, right? And we're like, damn, the motherfucking bug hit the windshield. There's a big splat mark there. And like, from the bug's perspective, it's like, it's flying around and the fucking car hits it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, everything is dependent on like what frame of reference you're thinking about. And the bug's family did not feel like the bug hit your windshield. The bug's family is like, that car fucked up Uncle Al, you know? So.
No, that's a good point. What was it called again?
Like frame of reference, you mean?
No, were you saying the term in engineering?
Oh, no, it's more, it's not necessarily like a specific term, but like when you think of speeds and like rockets and how like when you blast a rocket off of a ship that's on a boat that's traveling at 30 meters and this, that.
Yeah.
You know, what's important is where are you looking at the situation from? That's really how you have to think of every problem.
Yeah.
So,
okay. No, frame of reference, multiple perspectives. Got you. And that's what engineering is teaching you.
Yes.
Like your degree has been teaching you in terms of how to dissect motion.
Exactly. Well, yeah, motion, but it kind of like teaches your brain how to think about problems. Like a bug and a windshield collide. There's two ways to look at that thing: is the windshield hitting the bug or the bug hitting the windshield. And you can't just assume it's one or the other. You have to think about both.
Facts. Okay. Yep. So we can think about how you're going to fix this rocking chair in my house.
Oh, damn.
Now,
damn.
Is the rocking chair falling apart by itself, or is it falling
Liam
apart
not doing his job?
Liam, exactly.
All right. Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
All the people who tune in to want to hear Big Pun's Beware song. Like, what the fuck? This shit is terrible.
Why are you talking about rocking chairs?
Yeah. All right. So do you know the song? Did you think it was a perfect song? Is this something that what's your experience with the song?
Okay, so this is a controversial take.
Mm-hmm.
I am, and this is in comparison to Big Pun.
Yeah.
I'm comparing Big Pun to Big Pun. It's not, to me, the most big punning song. You know what I mean? Like when I listen to Big Pun and of some other songs, I'm like, woo wee. Big Pun, what you doing? This is like super lyrical, and I mean, I get why you chose it.
Yeah.
And there's some things I love about it, because I also think too, when you listen to Big Pun, there's so much amazingness lyrically that comes out of Big Pun's mouth. It's hard to be like, no.
Yeah.
But from Big Pun's repertoire, I could say no.
Got it. Okay. And I would agree with you in the sensibility, like we could probably do a podcast on a whole bunch of other Big Pun songs that either one of us may deem perfect.
True.
In this example, I just picked this one. Okay. So kind of vibe check of the song, East Coast 90s classic rap music. To me, when this song ever came on and I was in a group, like shit would get dark and quiet in the whole fucking listening group. It'd be like, oh shit, it got real, whatever. And I think it's kind of even the case when I played. I often use this example that when I'm driving in a car and sometimes you're with a group of people who aren't necessarily the same type of music fans that you are, and you'll be the DJ and you'll like reach every once in a while. Like, I'm gonna play this shit that I don't think the group is very aware of. I fuck with, and I just want to see their response to this song. Yeah. Sneak it in there. And I always feel like the energy shifts. I don't think necessarily everyone likes the song if I play it, but the energy shifts when this song comes on.
I can imagine that when you go from Zion to to Beware.
Exactly.
On your playlist, because we know your playlist is mad random.
Yep. Are you somebody that kind of keeps like track of like hip hop hierarchy, like Big Pun, Nas, Mos Def? Do you have like a hierarchy of those type of people, Biggie Smalls? Does Big Pun fall in that, or is it just kind of artist I like sometimes?
Okay, I think that's a great question. And I think it's complex in the way. So here's something that came to mind when you said it. Mm-hmm. Recently, Lil Wayne had mentioned Lil Wayne's top 5. And Missy Elliott was Lil Wayne's number 1. And everybody was like, what? Oh my God. But Lil Wayne's top 5 says the people that influenced me most in my career. And Missy Elliott is the number 1 person who's influenced me most in my rap career. And I thought that was amazing. So I think there's different ways you can look at it. For me, I look at rap like I look at athletes. People don't like me. They could call me they say a Die Easy fan. Mm-hmm. Not another Jalen Jacoby reference. Yeah. They could say that. I appreciate an athlete, and I appreciate the aesthetic. Like I can look at someone like John Morant and be like, that's incredible. Or Maya Moore or Candace Parker and be like, the way that they can aesthetically move, the thought and their approach is completely just out of this world. And that's the way that I look at rap. When I think about someone like Tierra Whack, thinking about like, even like a Big Pun, a Tupac, a Kendrick, all of these different people, I think about what they bring to the game in terms of their creativity. So there's no ranking for me. Mm-hmm. I know this is a long way to get to the question, right? There's no particular ranking for me, but there's like, in this moment, I really fuck with this right here. This is doing it for me.
Gotcha. It's like,
what about you?
Yeah, I think the older I get, the less I'm like concerned with like the hierarchy. When I was younger, I felt like more like I need to put this person above that person. Or wait. No, I forgot about this song. I need to switch the order around. But you're right now. It's just like what mood am I in, and like which artist is best for this mood. And I think that's a healthy and fine way to look at it. I feel like hip hop in general doesn't accept that vantage point. You're forced to have an opinion and who's better than who. Very competitive art form.
Yes, no, true, very competitive.
Okay, so most perfect elements of the song. Let me talk about the song itself. So one thing I think that has lost, and you get into this weird zone where you're like 90s real hip hop versus now. I don't want to do too much there because I feel like that's a very flawed, honestly, like stupid way to look at music and rap music. And to me, like zaps you of credibility when you go too far down that rabbit hole. But I do think back in this era of hip hop, this 90s kind of New York era, there was this kind of idea of like a gauntlet. Like you had to prove that you were a good rapper to other rappers, not just to like your fan base, but to other rappers. Right. And like you had to show that you were this great rapper. And typically to do it, you had to have like a song that just established it, like just lays down the gauntlet. So like, and you always hear these stories of like Nas and Jay-Z or Tupac or Big Pun, like subliminally dissing each other. And I think this kind of carries this idea of like this gauntlet of this being a great rapper and like dropping it in a certain song. Like the what's the thing that the challenge has been laid out for you. And this being his first song off his first album, to me, this is Big Pun, like laying down the gauntlet. Like, I'm a fucking great rapper. Other rappers, you're on notice. Beware. actually the name of the song is Beware.
Yeah, like do you mind if I add? Or wait,
Absolutely, go ahead.
When you look at the track list, because remember we were talking about 4.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at 4, the 4th track, because when I talk about loading the bases, the first one is usually the fastest runner. I'm gonna get on base, and that's Beware.
Yep.
The second person is like you want that person who has a high IQ or whatever, or high hitting average. Your first 4 are like the highest hitting average, like they can get on base as well, and that's super lyrical. It's super lyrical with Black Thought.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
And then Still Not a Player. I can't describe the third accurately, right? But people who play softball or baseball are gonna be like, DW, what you doing here? But y'all get the point. You get the point. Still Not a Player. And then we go to that 4th person, the Dream Shatterer.
Yeah.
That's the title of the 4th.
Cleanup. Yeah.
Yeah. The clean up all the bases. And when we think about the album, ever since we said that 4th track, when I look at it, the warning, like this person is getting on base, beware. It's like, oh, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
I'm about to load the bases, and then I'm going to shatter all your dreams when we go to the Dream Shatterer. So when I think about Big Pun's order on Capital Punishment, I'm like, you was saying something here.
It is amazing how back then, like, track order mattered so much. Like the song order on an album really mattered. And I feel like now it has no meaning. Like it's just maybe on like someone like Kendrick Lamar, they probably care more. But for most artists, I think they're just putting songs together and putting it on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube.
I think a little bit of both too. The majority, I agree. In the majority, you're not going to see this intentionality, but it might be something we don't know.
True. And maybe I'm thinking of more like, maybe I think listeners don't care about track order as much, but maybe artists still are thoughtful about it when they're doing it. I haven't thought about
true.
that.
Listeners, we don't give a fuck about track order.
Yeah, exactly.
I do, but we don't.
Most don't. Yeah.
Most don't. Right.
One last thing to hit home here, this idea of dropping the gauntlet. So when I think of like, what type of song does that mean? And why is Beware that type of song, in my opinion? I think of like a pitcher, to follow up on your baseball analogy. So pitchers have this repertoire, right? There's like a knuckleball, there's a curveball, there's a slider. And each one of these are kind of like a gimmick pitch. They have like a gimmick to them. But then there's like this classic baseball reference of like the fastball. And like the fastball is like I'm going to give you this thing. You know exactly what it's going to do. It's not going to deviate. It's going straight down the middle, but it's fucking everything I got distilled into this one pitch. You know what's coming. Can you fuck with it? And to me, that's this type of song. It's Big Pun's fastball. And I can think of some other ones like New York State of Mind from Nas. That's like Nas's fastball. Like, I'm not going to gimmick this up. This is just like in its purest form, right down the middle. And can you fuck with it or not? And I think of like Jay-Z did, 1,000,001 Questions on a Jay-Z album. Somebody's Gotta Die on Biggie Smalls. There was Ambitions of a Rider, Tupac. I think that a lot of these rappers from this era would make a song that was like a gauntlet song. Like, this is my fastball. I'm coming as hard and as fast as I can. Pause. And can you mess with it?
No, I think that's a great analogy. It's a great analogy because most of it, like you said, most of those things were happening on the tracks. I'm coming. I'm coming, and let me know. Let me let you know what's up.
Yeah.
Look
at us
I feel you on that.
The baseball analogies. Neither one of us play baseball.
I did play softball for 1 year in college.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it's a deep cut. Like 1 year I was like, fuck everybody in basketball. I quit everything.
I think I remember that now.
I went through like a crisis,
an
athletic crisis. And I was just being treated like shit. And so I was like, fuck everybody on this basketball team. Yeah. I'm gonna go play softball. Yo, I played softball 1 year. I was the lead hitter.
Oh.
Yo, I'm telling you, but they just trained me to be a slapper, which is the person you just like bunt. It would be bunting or whatever.
Like on base kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'd hit lefty. So sometimes still now, I don't know if I'm righty or lefty when I hit anymore, because I used to, in college, I would hit lefty. And, I didn't really play like that, but I wasn't a starter or anything, but I was significant. I was like, oh shit, I'm really doing work here. We got to the NCAAs.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. We got to the NCAAs and the last pitch, like we had 2 outs.
Yeah.
People on base. Like we needed somebody on base. They put me in. oh man, I was like, this is a lot of pressure.
This is clutch. Yeah.
This is the NCAA tournament. You know, we're in the first round and you're putting me on the bases or whatever. I mean, like you're putting me in to get on base because we got to get running or whatever. We got to get 2 runs in because the person after me is about to smack this shit out of the world. And I got to get on base.
Got to do this.
No right. Yeah. And I struck out and we lost.
Damn.
And I was like, but you know what was so great about it that I never had, like, in my experience in basketball in college, is that coach believed that I could do it. And that shit changed my life forever. It was like, yo, this coach who's only known me for a year put me on as the last like, go ahead, do this.
Ultimate
I believe
faith
that
in
you can do it. You know what I mean? And that belief in me, even though I struck out in the NCAA tournament and we got out, it was, out of all the years that I played sports in college, it was probably one of the best moments for me that I took home from athletics. And I was like, damn, that coach really believed in me. And that meant a lot to me. So there's my heartfelt story about softball in college.
I was sleeping on your baseball references. I did not know. But
yeah, but I wasn't like, I didn't know how to slide, man. I was just diving. I was doing crazy shit, trying to get to the bases. Steal the base, DW. All right, I got you. Just run, go do that shit. So anyway,
okay,
let's go.
Beware. To me, I think the song has everything. It has a dope beat. Big Pun is doing like his whole lyrical thing. The energy of the song is really dope. The chorus even samples Prodigy from Mobb Deep, and it's just this like haunting kind of sample that comes up during the chorus. And even the outro is dope with Fat Joe, who I would normally kind of associate with kind of squandering this outro and kind of just be like, oh, damn, man, shit, just leave the song alone. Yeah. I thought Fat Joe actually really did a dope outro. He doesn't rap. It's just him talking shit, but his talking shit is A+.
Yo, but Fat Joe, next to Big Pun, Fat Joe is holding his own. I don't know, is Fat Joe writing all Fat Joe stuff?
I think he is, yeah. And I'm a fan of Fat Joe, but like, you know, like there's this moment where like someone else comes on your song to like talk shit at the end and hip hop, and sometimes like
they don't do it justice. You could have not been on there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I feel you. Okay.
A song like this, how do you feel people who aren't the like quote unquote target audience of this type of song? Do you think it translates, or do you feel like this is the type of song that hits its core audience and misses like the casual hip hop fan?
I think that's a good question. I think it might miss in some ways, you know, because I think it's got there's a lot of internal reference there to the culture, what rap culture is, that you may not get. But I think if you were sitting somewhere and y'all were just chilling, maybe playing video games somewhere, and a song comes on and you're like, oh, okay, that was dope. Or like you ride in somewhere and it comes on, you like, that was dope. But I don't think it's something that people kind of get or like are into.
Yeah, like I feel like it may have an impact on the listener, but they're probably not going to like remember it and then go listen to it on their own time, which would be
exactly. I think that's a great description. Yeah.
Yeah. They have all these videos on YouTube now where like they play hip hop songs for like young kids who are like, you know, the young hip hop fans of today who never grew up listening to older hip hop music like this. And there's a bunch of them for this song in particular. And it's interesting the reactions that you see. Now, again, it's not quite a fair comparison to like outside of the hip hop target audience, because these are hip hop fans who just were unaware of the song. And there's a lot of interesting reactions to this song. Maybe I'll link some of it in our show description. I love have you ever seen those videos where people play old music for new people and just get their reaction? Love those videos.
I love the reaction videos. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And they have these 2 twins that were on like the Kelly Clarkson show and everything. They got reaction videos are big because people wanted, I guess, just interested in other people's opinions. Yeah. You know, I watch singing reaction videos all the time. Like I know singing. I'm like, oh, let me see what they had to go say about Chloe and Halle. Let me go see.
I think there's also this element of like community that you want to be a part of. Like you don't want to just appreciate art on your own. You just want to like stand next to someone else who's also there. Like even if they don't agree or whatever, it's just like,
that's true. That's true.
All right. Okay. The impact that this song had on me. So obviously I am not a Puerto Rican dude from the streets of the Bronx. I'm like a white guy from Amherst, you know? But when I hear this song, I think it's as close as I can get to feeling like a Puerto Rican dude from the Bronx. And like when I hear the song, like for me, there's this like primal thing that happens where I feel like I'm a superhero. Like this song, I don't know if it does it for you, but for me, it just makes me feel like I'm in a movie, shit is in slow motion, and I'm fucking up everybody. And I'm just like bodying the whole bad guy group.
No, but I think that's what great songs do, though. You know, it's the same thing with Benny the Butcher when I was riding in my Honda Fit in the white neighborhood, and I was like, I got these Timbs on though, but I got these Timbs on, and I'm gonna turn up this very standard speakers or radio, you know what I mean, and just go ahead and do this thing. But Benny the Butcher had me feeling that way. So it's a relatable. You
can relate
vibe.
To this general. Yeah. I think everyone can relate to this. Like, again, we talk about this a lot in this podcast. At its core, to me, like music just gives you permission to feel something that you don't normally allow yourself to feel always. And when you get that's why I think it just means so much to everybody.
I mean, I can imagine myself in my 20s being like, here's this person I just got out of a meeting and I can't stand these motherfuckers. And then I go in and play Pun Beware and I'm ready for the next event. Say something to me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And this song meant so much to me. There was like, when I was about 17, you might even be in it. You probably were, as a matter of fact. I was in high school and I made like a mini documentary of like all my friends, but it wasn't like a documentary where I interviewed them. I just like filmed people and I played music behind it. And I played Beware was one of the songs. It was this and Juicy. And I have to dig that from the vaults and it exists. Everyone's like 15 years old on video.
Well, let me tell you something. If I was in it, I don't remember, but I do remember, like, I think you were doing a video project and I was so fucking jealous because like, why does my brother get to be in it? Why does my, I play football with y'all too. Like, why am I not included? Yeah. And that might have been that moment where I was like, fuck Liam.
It might have been.
It's like, anyway, but you pull out the footage, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I'm sure it exists somewhere. Okay, I'm going to break the song down a little more deeply. So I'll talk first about the beat. So this is produced by Juju of the Beat Nuts. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Fucking amazing producer. One of the guys I really can say I feel was never appreciated to his fullest value. Fucking awesome at making beats. And Big Pun picked him specifically for this beat. Like, I need some grimy shit. Juju was like, I got you, dude. And fucking came back with this shit. Great job, Juju.
Do you mind if I add to this real quick?
Sure.
Was I noticed a Big Pun mentioned that when Big Pun raps, Big Pun usually destroys beats. And so they need to have like a really great producer. And I think that kind of speaks to what you're talking about of Big Pun would feel like this beat is not it can't keep up with me. And so to have somebody who's producing it and Big Pun be like, yep, you the one. I think that kind of fortifies what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this beat is interesting. So it has this like 2-note harpsichord thing, this that's very recognizable for me, especially considering it's only 2 notes. Like, it's one of the most recognizable moments in like hip hop musicality, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think in a broad like academic standpoint, but just from the impact that it's had on me, it's been amazing.
There's Mobb Deep does that a lot though, right?
They do, yeah. And you can hear the Mobb, again, they sample Mobb Deep even in the chorus. And I'm going to go and actually, you bring up a great point, DW. So there's also, I'll speak to it in a second, but there's also this swelling cinematic strings that are happening underneath just the harpsichord part that to me are what drive like the emotionality and the cinematic and like the darkness in this thing. Awesome, like orchestra type sound sample for the beat. And he does this thing where he EQs it as it goes along. And it's just like, oh, fucking perfect. One of the best beats I've ever heard. And then I'm going to like try to figure this out with you right now. We've talked about this a couple of times. Go ahead.
When equalizing, that's what it's for, equalizing. So as the beat plays along, they're manually EQing it, is what you're saying, on each level.
Correct. Yeah. So like we hear sound as a large amount of different frequencies coming into our ears. And when you're EQing it, you're eliminating certain frequencies. And, that's why it sounds muddy sometimes or more bass heavy sometimes or kind of tinny other times. And then talking to Mobb Deep. So this beat has this thing that happens that young hip hop producers did. So hip hop is this musical art form that came along where we're sampling stuff. So you have a lot of these like 18-year-old kids who are making music without quote unquote instruments, but are still needing to find ways to become creative and in my opinion, like some of the most amazing ingenuity, fucking genius level young people making music that I don't want to say never gets credit because hip hop's this huge art form, but I think like the artistry and the intelligence it took to make this kind of shit has never been properly recognized.
Absolutely.
And when I think of musical art forms that have been properly recognized, you think of like jazz or classical music or singer-songwriter shit. There's all this vocabulary around what's happening in the music, like staccato or a cappella, or, these words were created to help describe what's happening musically, help describe what the writer, the performer, the composer, the artist is doing. And I think there's a lot of stuff that happens in hip hop music that there is no vocabulary to describe. And I'm going to try to take us through one of those elements. First of all, do you have an opinion? It sounds like you resonates with you also.
Nah, I'm agreeing with you. I think hip hop gets shitted on. And, unless it is creating this poverty porn kind of scenario, because hip hop is essentially trauma rap.
Yeah.
And it grew out of this is shit that's happening. This is a story. And these are the traumas that are being created. And it's like the essence of when we talk about blackness. It was created, unless it's appropriated, it doesn't get the attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you may start seeing people be like, oh, there's a vocabulary. Somebody create a vocabulary word for this. It's probably not black. It's gonna be like, that's that word for this. You know what I mean?
I might do it right now.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of that.
Oh, caught in the rapture. What do we do? What do we do?
It's something that's always bothered me because when I made beats, like I would do the same thing so this is really from Havoc of Mobb Deep. He created this, and I don't want to but it's popularized by him, maybe is the right word to say. And he does this thing with music and sampling that is specifically hip hop that is now, because hip hop is, now you hear it in pop songs too. Yeah. But to me at the time, this is young producers inventing this thing through their own creativity. There wasn't a word to describe it because they literally invented this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think there's so much credit that's meant to be deserved there that isn't there. So we're going to try to create a word for this right now. Okay.
I like how you put we in it now. You put we in it. Okay, before good. It was me. Before it was you. I see how you did that. Okay.
So I'm going to try to find
create vocab.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but you can own it. Own it.
Okay, I'm going to own this. I'm going to describe to you what I'm trying to describe about this beat that I feel is so important. You have the harpsichord going, you have these strings going, and I'm going to try to vocalize this other element of the beat that's happening that kind of comes in different points. And it's like when you think of a hip hop beat, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's this thing where they sample and the loop is only the length of a 1. It's like a beat. Yeah. Now, here you go. I'm going to try to sing. I'm going to try to vocalize this. It's like
on the 1 you're talking about.
On the 1. It just repeats on the 1. So it's not even like a melody. It's like this eerie kind of like ambient loop that's going on. And I'm going to play a beat that's similar to this Beware beat. It's called Survival of the Fittest from Mobb Deep. And it's going to come in at a certain point and tell me if you recognize immediately when it starts playing, if I'm describing it accurately. All right.
Okay. Right there?
That, exactly. That very short loop that just repetitively goes through it. To me, there's no word that describes what's going on there, but that's specifically hip hop. And it's specifically created by these young, intelligent producers. Okay. And I feel like there's no word that describes that. Like if I had to tell you, remember the part of the beat where this is happening? How do you fucking say that?
Okay, I'm gonna steal it right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna do exactly what everybody else does to us. I'm stealing your shit. I'm the inventor of this shit. Here we go. It is called the one loop.
The one loop. Okay, good.
That's what it's called. DW just invented the one loop. There's probably a name for it already, but
it might be.
It's the one loop. That's what we're gonna call it.
I don't think there is though, because I spent time researching on the internet a name for this type of thing. I even went into the depths of how they made the beat. And there is no word to describe this type of strategy while making a beat. And this is a very obvious, great example. But in the Big Pun song, you'll hear it also. This, what do you call it? One loop?
Yeah, I call it the one loop. And let me
Yeah.
tell you but this is what I'm gonna do for you, Liam.
Okay.
When the one loop is trademarked and everything, and people are like, yo, DW, yo, the fucking one loop, I'm gonna throw you some coins. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna give you a percentage, but I'll throw you some coins. It's some hush money, you know? I'm gonna do it just how they do it. They just do it just how they do it in the industry. Like, fuck all y'all.
Like, just buy me something that's like,
I'll buy you a
great
backpack.
for me, but like in the long run, like the royalties are worth way more than whatever this like throwaway gift is.
Exactly. I'm gonna give you a little like $1,000 deposit, and I'm gonna make my millions off the one loop.
Yeah. Here's John Mayer tickets, Liam. Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, but that's a sound that I hear often.
And so this Beware beat has it. And it's why the beat to me is so perfect. It includes all these great, just like classic fucking hip hop elements that I just think Juju completely destroys. It's the perfect beat for this type of song, the perfect beat for Big Pun. His voice in this beat, it's just like, when we talk about perfect, to me, this is, I can't imagine a better way for this to happen than what happened here.
You know, here's the thing about what I love about Big Pun is like, it just seems like Big Pun's voice is very full. You know, even with all the other pieces that are there, Big Pun, I think, had breathing, like respiratory struggles.
Oh, yeah.
Even with that, when Big Pun rapped, it was like something opened up, and there was a clarity there that you didn't necessarily hear when Big Pun was talking.
Yeah.
I don't know if that happened for you, but I think that Big Pun does an incredible, it's almost like something just opens and Big Pun is like, yo, I'm here for this 4 minutes I never seen Big Pun on tour, but you know what I mean? It's like something just opens.
I think you're 100% right. It's like he has a natural talent, and it's like there's a lot of flaws and all these things, but like when he needs to summon this moment where the talent needs to jump up, it's like it's there. Perfect.
Right.
So we can even talk about like Big Pun's verses on this song. His voice is just so full. He's so confident in himself. You just believe everything he's saying. At no point you're like, Big Pun, are you really like punking dudes in the street? Really, Big Pun? Like, no, I'm like, damn, that motherfucker's punking everybody in the Bronx. Like, yeah. And then you hear the stories.
Specific.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and you're right. He has all these great specific references. Again, I love when artists do that. Don't hold my hand on what it's like to be in the Bronx. Just say the street, and like leave the rest up for me to figure out. And I think Big Pun does a fantastic job at that.
Ooh, the line, 20 shot auto Glock blow, Benny Blanco Puerto Rican style.
Yeah.
Oh, and wait, is it Benny Blanco Puerto Rock style.
Yeah.
Puerto Rock style. Yo, but that I don't know the movie, but yo, who is it? I'm Benny Blanco from the Bronx. You know that the shots go. I forgot what movie that was, but I remember Benny Blanco for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the lyrics, I won't go into like each thing, but he has this great ability to like technically just be this fantastic, great rapper without it being totally about like gimmicky punchlines. Again, he has punchlines, so to speak, in it, but it's just so matter of factly said that it's just like, it's happening to you and you're just being like, I don't know how to describe it, but.
Yo, I got another one. Another one. Big Pun's delivery is so great, but what's happening now? Niggas is hard as hell, but they gargamels. Picking on the smallest victim, give them a heart to kill.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, gargamels, come on.
Yeah.
I love when you do like the little Smurf reference. You out here. Like, you think you hard as hell, but you gargamels. Oh, I love that. I love how that line right there.
And I think that's right. In a different artist saying that may have been corny and like, you just reached right there. Like, I need my Gargamel shit separated from my gangster rap shit. And like, this can't be happening. And he just does it perfect. Like, you don't doubt for a second that he knows about both those things perfectly. And he's just like, hey, both these things belong together. I'm Big Pun. And
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The confidence behind it makes it, even better.
Yep. And to me, this song, the lyrics, the verses are just cinematic. Like, it's like watching a movie, listening to this song. And again, it's interesting. There was never a music video for the song. But there's somebody on YouTube that, again, the intro right before the song begins is from a movie called Fresh. which is kind of the same era of New York City, like inner city life. And they cut scenes from that movie to this song. And it's fucking amazing. And when you talk about the cinematic nature of the song, along with the cinematic nature of that movie, it's this perfect blend. I'll link that in the show description too. But Big Pun's ability to just like paint this picture that, again, I'm not a Puerto Rican guy from the Bronx, but like when I listen to the song, there's a movie that I can literally plays out in my head of what I can see. And it's an amazing ability that he showcases in the song.
Mm-hmm. And also, you know, Big Pun, when did Eminem come out?
So Big Pun was dead before Eminem became relevant to any degree. There was no overlap.
Because Big Pun, when Big Pun was doing what Big Pun was doing, it like I wonder if those two met. Like if Eminem was influenced by Big Pun. Like when I listen to Eminem, I think absolutely, totally that's Big Pun right there. Mm-hmm. Because when you listen to We Polish the Floor with the rawest hardcore artist, Flawless Victory, y'all niggas can't do shit to me physically, lyrically, hypothetically, realistically. What?
Yes. Yeah.
Come on now.
Yep.
Eminem is all like Eminem was listening to Capital Punishment their entire life. As long as it was out, Eminem was listening to this, to this.
I 100% believe exactly what you said. Big Pun just kind of laid this framework. And it's funny, like it eventually there became this thing where people made fun of this like super lyrical, hypothetical, spiritual. But to me, Big Pun was this guy kind of quote unquote doing that, but he just did it in the perfect way. The shit was amazing. And I think he did a good version of it that so many people tried to like mimic that they kind of ruined it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how someone creates some dope shit and then everyone just hops on it and you're like, yeah, you totally fucked it up. Like, why'd you do that?
No, I think that is the sequencing behind Big Pun. After Big Pun, it's like a lot of people don't quite get what Big Pun was doing. It's like the perfect mixture of storytelling, technique, and straight up just energy, swag. That kind of thing. I can't think of another word besides swag right now, but it's right. I'm dating myself, but it's all good.
I'm with you. Like, it's the perfect. I use that word still too, and I'm like, every time I use it, I'm like, I need to fix this. Like, I need another word that's not this one, but
but it gives the perfect. Let's say the perfect vibe.
Yeah.
You know, the vibe between I'm in and out of technique, and I'm into this. I'm into just groove right here. You know, I know how to vibe from front to back and forth. And I think a lot of people could only take pieces of what Big Pun was doing and work on those pieces. But Big Pun embodied all of those different things. And that's what makes Big Pun to me perfect in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think you put that great. Another thing that this song in particular did to me is I remember Big Pun coming out around this time. I was young. I was like a hardcore, like hip hop, like shit needs to be the best lyrics. Da, 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 da. I was probably the annoying hip hop fan. You're like, Liam, what the fuck, man? Like, calm down.
Pipe down.
Yeah, exactly. This is, But, and I was skeptical of Big Pun for, I don't know why, but I just was, right? And I had a bunch of friends that were like, Big Pun is it, you know? And then this album came out and this song came on. And to me, it's like the equivalent of like an unproven NBA like star, like this young, like a Ja Morant kind of, who's like, is this guy really good or is he a good player on a bad team? Like, what's really happening here? Has he arrived? Has he not? Maybe it's just like a flash in the pan. And then they're like their first playoffs and there's a game that pops up and they drop 55 and you're like, oh no, this isn't a fly by night. This is some real shit right here. And to me, when I heard this song, I was like, oh wow, all that shit I talked about Big Pun, like I need to be quiet and just listen.
Sit down somewhere. Yeah. Go sit down somewhere.
I remember I talked shit about Big Pun and then a friend brought the album over, the CD, and I put it in my boombox. And we played like GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. I was not a fan. And then he's playing it. And in my head, I was like, yo, this shit is really fucking dope. I was like, damn, I like this. I'm gonna go buy it right now.
But I can't, did you admit to the person that it was dope or did you like stick to your, I'm not going to say it out loud?
I think my critique of Big Pun was more like to myself. Like I didn't like him because I didn't like him to me. You know, this is like an internal dialogue going on in my head.
Okay.
And I had to like have a conversation with myself as I listened to the song. Like, Liam, you were wrong.
But you know what I do appreciate about you is that accountability turn where you're like,
Okay.
oh, that's a good point. Or, oh, I think that's also why we're actually friends.
Okay.
Because I think I wouldn't be able to, because there's sometimes I'll be like, yo, this shit is wild right now. And it'll like something will be happening in my world. And then I see you when we come from so many different walks of life. But your ability to be like, damn, to hold space for what's happening and then also be like, I don't need to solve this problem. And I also like really hurt for what's happening, or I'm happy for what's happening. And also I'm really aware that I could be part of the problem, if that makes sense, whether that's intentional or unintentional, but your ability to kind of sit back and be like, let me figure out what's me. And I personally appreciate that about you. So, and I think that that's why when we talk about we're here in this longevity, this life that we've made it so far, because I've definitely been like, fuck all y'all. You know what I mean? Like the people who didn't get it, you don't get this shit and I'm not explaining it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I think 16-year-old Liam was not this evolved. And that's how good this song was. That like even 16-year-old Liam had to be like, this shit is fire. And you're way out of line, Liam. Get it together.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do agree when we look at the pieces and all the things, it's undeniable. It's undeniable that Big Pun was super talented. You know, and even Fat Joe says, I had to stop everything. When I heard Big Pun rhyme, I had to stop everything and put Big Pun on one of my songs before my album was released, because I was like, this person is next. And I'm gonna scoop this person up real quick and make them part of Terror Squad. And
I think you're right, because even in his outro, which again, I was like, usually these goes really bad, these like hype man outros, but you can hear it in Fat Joe's voice that he really is like Big Pun's biggest cheerleader. And that's part of what actually to me makes Fat Joe talking shit at the end of the song actually a dope part of the song.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love like when I even learning about their relationship, how Fat Joe was kind of like, you know, you have the things on your shoulder, the you know, what they would say, the angel and the devil on your shoulder or whatever, however people describe it. Fat Joe was like the wings. Yeah. You know, and they would describe like Big Pun would only do certain things around Fat Joe because Fat Joe kind of had that hold on Big Pun in a way that was a loving hold of, yo, I'm looking out for you. You can't be doing ignorant shit like that. Like straighten that out, you know? And I think that their relationship is a reflection. You can see in the videos, stuff like that, how they kind of had this love for each other that was just very genuine.
Dope. One thing that still holds, like, this is just a side note, like, so I go back and forth to New York City a lot. And sometimes I always have to go through the Bronx because I live north of New York City. And sometimes I take sometimes I take 95, sometimes I take 87. And this is for people who are aware of New York City, there's different ways to get through the Bronx into Manhattan. And if I take 87, you drive by this place that I remember in the 90s, Big Pun and Fat Joe would talk about. And it used to be called Jimmy's Bronx Cafe. It was like right on Fordham Road, and 87, you drive right past it. And it's been gone forever, but it's just weird. Like every time I drive past that, I always think that that's Jimmy's Bronx Cafe. That used to be where like Big Pun and Fat Joe would hang out. And I just have this whole like memory lane thing that happens every time I go through that part of the Bronx. And I think of this song, actually. I played it in my car. Like I waited till I'm close to there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to drive by what used to be Jimmy's Bronx Cafe. I'm going to play the song just so like at the halfway mark, I drive past this shit and I feel all the feelings I want to feel.
That makes sense.
So that's my case why this song is
That's
perfect.
Your case?
Yeah, I just think it's the ultimate fastball pitch of this like 90s era. Like, and I don't mean to say 90s era, but I just mean this like rapping for other rappers in a way that like I've arrived and I cannot be challenged. Not challenged. I cannot be doubted. You can't doubt that I have talent. This is here.
Yeah, I had I think ultimately I can agree on so many levels that this song, I could understand why it's perfect. You know, I can understand. I think again, in the catalog, I'm not like, this is the one, but it has so much in there, you know, and also the pieces I was debating too. And I wanted to ask you this question about when people talk about art, the person versus the art, like the person versus the art. and being able to separate those two. Being able to think about like as us who are, you know, in relationship with each other on a regular basis, like not separating. There's no separation. I feel like there's no separation between who we are as artists, who we are as people. You know, we acknowledge all of those different pieces. And a lot of the videos that I saw about Pun in interviews, it was like, this is the realest station you going, you know, we giving it to you real, none of that fake shit, da da da. There would be a lot of that happening. And I started thinking to myself, like, how real are people being about Pun's legacy? And how do you even talk about Pun's legacy? And what does realness mean? Does it mean like, oh, Pun was real because Pun was violent? Does it mean Pun was real because Pun was super lyrical? Does it mean, but nobody ever really talked about the stuff that was happening with Pun's trauma and how that played out in Pun's life. And I debated how do we talk about the whole person, because that person affects their ability to be super lyrical, where they came from and how they contributed to the world. And I debated about that. And I also debated about it being in a femme body, because I think people often point and are like, you fucking hate this person. But I thought about, how do you be real about, how do you hold all of these things and know that this person had so many great things and also caused a lot of harm in certain spaces, but also created a lot of joy in certain spaces. And how do you talk about those things and hold all of that so that you're honoring all the different legacies, whether they be legacies that have harm in it and legacies that have all these other pieces in it? Did you think about that at all when we were covering Big Pun?
So no, but I think you bring up like an important point, that it's in some way part of what I'm celebrating in this song isn't all good shit. You know, this song is a violent song about a violent lifestyle. And, you know, there are these countless examples when you look at stories of Big Pun's actual life from people who are actually present, where, you know, if you take away this idea that he's this famous, talented rapper and you just look at some guy from the Bronx doing this act to other people, this shit is atrocious. I mean, like, you would never want to be the person on the other end of some of these actions. And sometimes, you know, you like, well, if they're in that lifestyle too, but some of the stuff that you hear is not that. And it seems like it's tough, especially when you think of, I wonder how much, let me not say that, but you can't celebrate everything. The guy is not a deity. He is not perfect. There's a lot of flaws that if you trick yourself into thinking that's when men were men, this kind of, and I'll talk about a YouTube comment that strikes a little bit of what you're saying. It's meant to be a compliment to Big Pun, but when you sit back and take a step away from what this person in YouTube is saying, and you think about it, you're like, is this really what we want to celebrate?
Yeah, like, I'm curious, can you read the YouTube comment? Yeah. Because it was something that I found myself, I was definitely like, oh my gosh, based off of how we talk about stuff in our regular conversation, would it be us doing a disservice to not have the conversation? You know what I mean? Like, I would, if I was in a room with you, which I am right now, I'd be like, yo, what do you think about this? Yeah. Like, how would you, like, let's talk about it.
It's weird. I'll get to the YouTube comment right after this. How do you separate this thing of the artist from what they did, like the actual actions of the person? Because they are you can't totally separate them, and it's not right to do that. But it is a complicated conversation to have. Like, I don't know how to exactly have it.
I would just be specific, like, about what people describe, like, in their conversations or in the bios and stuff like that. When you watch a Big Pun, there's the talk of Big Pun's, and I'll say allegedly because I don't know any facts or whatever, but there's the talk of Big Pun's childhood, of being abused as a child, and also eating as a comfort. Like, Big Pun would eat pieces of the wall, stuff like that, or rocks and stuff like that when they were younger. And then also how that translated into the violence and the trauma translated into them as an older person, which is something that is routine in rap in general. And I'm only speaking on things that I know as far as hip hop, because you hear it in the stories. It's not just Big Pun, you know, but you talk about this person's legacy, and like, you have all these beautiful things. And the piece that I think about, and the reason why I'm naming it and talking about like the domestic violent pieces is because I think we don't talk about it, but it's very, very real in every situation. And it was very real that it was a portion, like it was a portion that's often associated with Big Pun because it was so prevalent in that way that people could not talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I'll read this YouTube comment. And again, when I pick YouTube comments, it's not necessarily that I always like the YouTube comment. I have two of them. One I like, and one is more like this kind of very interesting, complicated reflection on how we view like masculinity, which is, I think, what Big Pun sounds, quote unquote, very masculine. And when we use that word, there's a lot of like positive thoughts on what strength is. But then you look at like how he acted, you know, again, I understand it's allegedly, but there's enough kind of dialogue around this stuff where anyone who hears it should be skeptical of, you know.
Okay, so what I'll say is this.
Yeah.
All of these truths can coexist. And I think that as human beings, we don't know how to hold all of these different things. And so we either try to run away from one part of it and like lean into another part, but also like the parts of me, when I talk about me, there are violent parts of me. There are soft parts of me. There are all these different parts. And I think when you honor their entire person, they don't have to hide. And the sadness that I feel about that particular part is like, here's this extraordinary person that I felt like they had to hide pieces of them in certain ways because they didn't know how to express it, or they didn't have permission to express it, to permission to get what they needed. And there's people around them that wanted them to have what they needed, wanted them to do the things, and was really like motivated to support them because Big Pun was very loved.
Yeah. And
the sadness to me around it is that people won't talk about it. And I think you can talk about this and you can talk about music because it doesn't take away from the artist that Big Pun is to me. Like, it's still an amazing, incredible artist. And being able to acknowledge that and be like, this is a whole person, and it's okay. Like, it's okay because we are all dynamic people and we're all works in progress. And Pun never got to be the progress that I believe Pun, or that people talked about Pun wanted to eventually see in his world. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. It's like, how do you hold people accountable for their actions, but not cancel everything about them? But it's complicated because on the one hand, when someone does something as egregious as some of what Big Pun's alleged to do, you can't support that in any way, shape, or form. You can't condone it. Right. You can't say, explain it away as, this is, he's more than just this one instance. But it's like that one instance is fucking life changing for the person that it happened to, Yeah. But on the other hand, you have like this amazing artist, and I think it's just, we won't solve this in a moment, but let me read this YouTube comment. So this is their YouTube comment. Quote, "Rappers sounded like strong, intelligent men back in the day. He was what? In his early 20s in the song? He still sounded like a man. Artists today sound like ignorant boys." End quote. And I think what he's saying is back then, if you took an early 20s rapper versus today an early 20s rapper, for whatever reason, they sounded more like what we kind of assume was this kind of like mature masculinity. Whereas now it's kind of like, I don't know. And I don't know why. What's interesting to me is what he says it makes sense to me, but I don't know if I know why it makes sense to me. And then the deeper part of it is, even if you take away the then versus now element, this idea of what it is to be a man, and then you think of the content of what Big Pun is rapping, it's weird. Like, I get what he's talking about. The energy Big Pun came across with, it does. To me, it sounds like, quote unquote, a man. But then the actions that this person is carrying out, it's like, how can you, this is not what a man isn't running around shooting people in the neighborhood.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's also when you go back to rap, everybody's talking about what they're doing. They're doing, when we say that 2 or 4, that same thing, that 2 or 4. Yeah. And that's a big part of having all of these different, growing up in places where you have to figure out how to survive. That's a big part of that. And I think also when we talk about this particular comment, when you look, even thinking about the person who's making the comment, they live in a certain world and they believe a certain thing. And that too can be honored because that's the world that they live in. And how do we have the discussion about that's not true for the world that I live in, but in the world that you live in, I can see that perspective. So understanding that, yes, when I look at Big Pun's lyrics, there's something different about it. And when I think about Big Pun as this cultural phenomenon, this person who's like, also, I'm Puerto Rican and I'm also Black. And that is that's fucking huge for Big Pun to be like, yo, we all that, and that to me is a maturity that's there. So there's this space where it's like, yo, this person had these limitless ways of looking at the world.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to acknowledge that we are together in this piece. And that's what I love about Big Pun. And I can love that about Big Pun. And then also be like, damn, I really want this healing to happen here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think when I look at that comment, I could say that it's one dimensional in that way, but it's really real for that person. And I don't want to say that it's invalid. And, you know, and I think that speaks to the way that we invalidate people of their perspectives because we don't understand it. And I think that speaks to the podcast of what perfection really is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is perfect. Big Pun to me is perfect. Perfect in the sense of we're always work in progresses.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some amazingness about us.
Yeah.
And so when I thought about it, I was thinking to myself, like, why do we do this podcast?
Yeah.
And why does this do that? I don't know. But I went there.
I always wonder of like, what's the proper way to how do you create balance to these scenarios where you have, and I don't know what the answer is, but like in theory, you celebrate this artistic achievement and you hold it up high, we're praising it. But then, you know, would you incorporate the voices of the people who this person may have had a life-changing impact on them from a strictly negative standpoint? And I don't know the answer to that, but.
I mean, I think they're all a part of Big Pun's story.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you tell the story the way that the way that it is?
Yeah.
Or do you tell only part of it?
Yeah.
And then you deny people the whole human.
Yeah. And maybe that's this part of the podcast that we're talking about right now is there's a lot going on. You can't just take everything. Okay.
What's the other one?
The other one, this is a little bit of a change of pace.
Let's change it. Let's change the pace.
So the other one is, quote, if Batman made a diss track, he would definitely use this beat. And I fucking agree. Batman would fucking spit fire over this shit. You know what I'm saying? Batman movies are like dark and cinematic, and it's like you're fucking, you know, some shit's going on.
No, totally. I'm just thinking of all the Batman voices, you know, in my head, like all of the ways that people interpret Batman on a track. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm appreciating that comment as well. And I do have. Go ahead.
So one last thing, in the YouTube comments, as I'm looking through all of them, there are so many annoying people who do this is when hip hop was real. Like, can we old heads just stop doing that? And even young people do it. And it's just like, it's a bad look. Just like appreciate it and say this shit is really dope and Big Pun is mega talented, but please stay away from these cliches. You're not helping the overall message of what you're trying to do. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I have a few questions for you. I do. Okay. You ready?
I'm down.
And we some of these we went through, but let's see. Okay. So Big Pun loved water and water games. What was your favorite water activity or water game? Now, this could be as a child and an adult, or it could be either or, whatever.
I think the most memorable one for me, did you ever have this? There was like like you have like the hose and you plug it in and there was like a sprinkler, but there was a specific one that was like an umbrella, like a little teddy bear or like a figure holding an umbrella, and the water would come out of the top of that.
I mean, I'm getting the idea that it sprays out. I didn't have that specific one. Yeah. I mean, we poke holes in a hose, and that's what we're getting right there.
I was very fancy, or my neighbor was very fancy. Is probably the better way to say it.
That was it. That was your thing?
That was my most memorable one. Yeah.
Okay. Big Pun also loved his kids and often brought them wherever he went. So this is two prong or something like that. Do you want kids? And if so, what place would you love to take them?
I do want kids. What place would I love to take them?
I did know the answer to that, but never hurts to ask again.
Everyone else doesn't though.
Right.
These are all the cliche stuff, like the beach, simple shit in life. I mean, come on, like as you get older and older and older, you realize like the best moments weren't like some specific low, like commercial location. It's not like the store at the mall. It's like the fucking beach.
Yeah.
That
fly.
I want to take my kids on vacation. That's where I want to take them, to vacation. And all the shit that means.
All right. I'm gonna do my best to phrase this, but I think we kind of went over this a little bit, but there could be some difference there. So Big Pun is the first Puerto Rican artist people describe on the charts, they describe as Latino artists to go platinum in the US, paving the way for other artists like him. Are there any artists, when you hear them, you hear Big Pun's influence? And we talked about Eminem already.
Yeah, Eminem is a great example. Specifically Big Pun. Other than the people who obviously came up with him, this whole like Terror Squad group, like a kind of separate from you, like you can tell, like didn't have anything to do with him specifically, but it was heavily influenced by him. Not without it kind of sounding cliche. Like when I think, and there's like an artist named Terminology who's from like Lawrence, Massachusetts, who's a Puerto Rican rapper. I think he's Puerto Rican, and he references a lot of Big Pun stuff. But he's like an older rapper. He's kind of like of my generation. I'm trying to think of like a young one that hits home, and I actually can't give you a good example.
I thought that was a pretty tough question, but as someone who listens to a lot of hip hop, I wanted to give that to see what would land for you. Because
I think you already answered it. To me, it was Eminem. You can definitely hear Eminem being influenced by
Big Pun.
By Big Pun. Yep.
Okay. And what's your absolute favorite Big Pun song?
That's really tough. I think, as we spoke earlier, Big Pun has amazing ones. It might be the Still Not a Player, the single from this one with Joe on it. That one's so great when you hear it, especially with a group of people.
They nailed the chorus on that one.
They did. Fucking awesome.
They nailed it. Mm-hmm.
It's between that, You Came Up, which is also from this album. There's a song called Capital Punishment, was the name of the album. And he has so many good ones. There's
so many good features. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like the Pun's track list is 24 on Capital Punishment.
Yeah.
Even though there's interludes and stuff in there, that's like 3 albums today.
Yeah.
You know, so we have like 3 albums of Pun right now, plus all Pun's features. And I love the 100%.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that oh my. That one right there. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What did your dad have to say?
So do you think my dad knows who Big Pun is?
I was thinking about this hard at the beginning.
This one's tough.
It is tough. It is tough. Considering the influence that Puerto Ricans have had on your life and your dad's life, the proximity that your dad has had to Puerto Ricans, I'm going to say yes.
Okay. I have recorded evidence and we can review this.
Okay.
Do you know an artist by the name of Big Pun?
Big Pun.
Come on. I
do not.
Now, I will say this. I do think your logic was correct. I think if my dad could have, like, if there could have been like a refresher, like some sort of like thing to jog his memory, he probably been, oh, that's the really big rapper. I vaguely remember him.
Yeah.
But I think the premise of this thing is how famous is Big Pun. And I think as time has gone on, Big Pun's fame has, subsided a bit, even if his passionate core fans are still big. But
big out there, right?
Yeah, but it's a negative.
What's the singular most fantastical moment?
It's the feeling I get when I listen to the album, and there's this amazing album intro that we talked about earlier from the song from this movie called Fresh, that I literally think when you listen to it, it sounds like the writer of that movie literally had Big Pun in mind when he wrote this moment in the movie. And then it snaps away out of the intro and it immediately cuts to the song. And it's that feeling of like goosebumps I get when that exact moment happens. How about you?
Wow. I thought I had a solid, fantastical moment. But I think I'm gonna go with, I really love the reference to Gargamel here. I thought it was so dope because it was slid in between all of the other things, and you're like, Gargamel, and I just think about Gargamel as the cartoon. It's like, oh my gosh, the way that my mind goes off into the Smurfland from this Beware, it's magical to me. Where can we hear Where can we hear Big Puns?
So this is available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. There's no music video per se, but I will also link to that mashup, so to speak, of the Fresh movie clips along with this song that I think is really dope. But just Google Big Pun Beware. You'll find it on all the.
You know where else they can hear it, Liam?
Where can I hear it?
They can hear it on the What's Perfect Really podcast playlist.
Yes, they can.
They can on the YouTube playlist.
And the Spotify playlist.
Yeah, I mean, I had to say it.
Yeah.
Also, we want to know your perspectives, y'all. We went kind of a lot of different places here. So curious to hear your perspectives on even what you think about the way we've covered it and what your experiences is with Big Pun's music or Big Pun's, the way that Big Pun created a whole movement. We'd love to hear that. So you can write into us at whatsperfectreallypodcast@gmail.com. You can also share your stories with us on Instagram at What's Perfect Really Podcast. And you can hit us up on Twitter at What's Perfect Really, no vowels. So that's WHTSPRFCTRLY. What's Perfect Really without the vowels on Twitter. And we invite you to take what you want from this podcast and leave what you don't, because ain't nobody perfect. Peace, y'all.
Hello. You are watching an informative video to learn more about an English word. Perfect. P-E-R-F-E-C-T. Perfect. Definitions of perfect. Adjective. Having all the required or desirable elements, qualities, or characteristics, as good as it is possible to be. Perfect.